Welcome to episode 101 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda, Butterworth, and today we continue with the tales of Troy and the story of Priam Visits Achilles, Part 2. It loomed high, built of timbers and roofed over the reeds. A spacious court was all around it, and this in turn was protected by a close-set palisade. A single bolt of pine wood closed the door, but it was so heavy that only 3 strong men could push it back or forward. No one but Achilles could handle it alone. But Hermes opened the door effortlessly, dismounted, and revealed himself as a god after he had advised the old man to clasp the hero's knees and beseech him by his father and mother. Now Priam, too, dismounted and left the horses and mules in the care of Idaeus. He himself went straight into the house and found Achilles sitting apart from his comrades. He was resting after the meal. The board still stood before him, and only Automedon and Alcemaeus were close by. No one noticed the entrance of Priam. He hastened to Achilles, clasped his knees, kissed his hands, those terrible hands which had slain so many of his sons, and gazed into his face. The son of Peleus and his friends regarded him with amazement, and then the old man began to plead. "God-like Achilles," he said, "think of your father, who is as old as I. Perhaps hostile neighbors are threatening him, and he is as frightened and helpless as I myself. Still, day after day, he lives in the hope of seeing his dear son once more. But I, who had 50 sons when the Argives came to this coast, 19 of them from one and the same wife, have lost most of them in this war, and now you have killed the only one who could have saved our city and all our people. That is why I have traveled to the ships. I have come to buy the body of Hector from you, and I bring immeasurable ransom. Fear the gods, son of Peleus. Have pity on me, and remember your own father. I am worthier of compassion than he, for I have suffered what no mortal has suffered, and I press to my lips the hand which has slain my children." So he spoke, and aroused in the hero longing and sorrow for his father. He gently loosed the old man's clasp. Then Priam, prostrate at Achilles' feet, shed bitter tears for Hector, and Achilles also wept for his father and for his friend. The house resounded with lament. At last, the son of Peleus rose from his seat and raised the old man, filled with pity for his gray hair and beard, and said, "How much have you suffered, and now what courage to come alone to the Argive ships and into the presence of the man who has killed so many of your sons? You must have an iron heart. But come, sit down and let us quiet our grief, though it gnaws at the soul. This is the fate decreed by the gods for mortal men, why they themselves are free from care. At the door of Zeus stand 2 great urns. One is filled with disaster, the other with good fortune. He to whom the god gives a little of both alternates between unhappiness and joy. But he to whom Zeus deals nothing but anguish is pursued over all the earth by grief that eats at his heart." To Peleus the god did indeed give marvelous gifts, power and positions, and even an immortal to wife. But he was also allotted a share of distress, for he has only one son who is destined to die young, so that he will not be able to tend his father in his old age. But here I am, far from home, fighting before the gates of Troy and grieving you and yours, old man. You too were famed through the world for the fortune attending your house, you and your many sons. But now the Olympians have sent war and death to your city. Endure your lot, and do not mourn incessantly, for even years of lament will not give you back your glorious son." Priam replied, "Favorite of Zeus, do not bid me be seated while Hector lies in your house unburied. Let me have him quickly, for I long to see him. Accept the rich ransom I have brought you, spare me, and return to your native land." Achilles frowned at his words and said, "Do not press me, old man. I myself wish to give Hector to you, for my mother brought me the message of Zeus. Besides, I know quite well that a god must have led you to our ships, for how could a mortal, were he ever so young and brave, get by the guards or draw back the bolt from the gate? But do not trouble your sad heart still more, or I might forget the command of Zeus and fail to spare you, no matter how humbly you plead." Priam trembled and was silent, but Achilles leaped from the house like a lion, and after him his comrades. They unyoked the mules and admitted the herald. Then they took the ransom from the wagon, but they left in it 2 mantles and a tunic, so that the body of Hector might be fittingly covered. After this, Achilles had the corpse washed, anointed, clothed, and laid on a bier. As his companions lifted it on the wagon, he called the name of his friend and said, "If in the night of the underworld you should hear that I gave Hector's body to his father, do not be angry with me, Patroclus. He brought no mean ransom, and you shall have your share of it." He re-entered the house, seated himself opposite Priam, and said, "Your son has been ransomed, as you desired. He lies properly clad, and as soon as the sky reddens with dawn, you may see him and take him away with you. But now let us eat the evening meal. You will have time enough to lament your son when you return to Troy, and he well deserves all the tears you will shed for him." So saying, the hero rose from his seat, hastened out, and slaughtered a sheep. His friends filleted it, and cut the meat into pieces, and roasted them on a spit. Then they sat down at the board. Automedon passed each his share of bread in a basket skillfully plaited. Achilles dispensed the meat, and all satisfied their hunger and thirst. Priam watched his host wonderingly, for in beauty and strength he was like the immortals. But Achilles, too, marveled whenever he looked at Priam's face, full of majesty and command, or heard the wise words he uttered when the meal was over. Priam said, "Now assign me a couch, noble Achilles, that I may refresh myself with sleep, for since my son died my lids have not closed, and this is the first time I have tasted meat and wine." Instantly Achilles bade his handmaids prepare a couch with crimson mats, and spread it with soft coverlets. The herald had a couch of his own. Then Achilles said, "And now lie down and sleep, old man, for if you went to your couch later in the evening, one of the Argive princes, who have the custom of assembling in my house, might see you prowling through the dark and report it to Agamemnon, and he might question my right to dispose of Hector's body as I wish. But tell me one thing more. How many days will you spend on the burial of your son? Ask because during all that time I shall keep my people from attacking your city." "If you permit me to bury my son with all honors," Priam replied, "then allow me 11 days. You know that we live in a city and must fetch wood for his pyre from the mountains, and that is a long way. We shall need 9 days for our preparations. On the 10th we shall bury him and hold the funeral feast, and on the 11th heap the burial mound. On the 12th, if it must so be, we shall be ready to fight again." "It shall be as you say," answered Achilles. "I shall restrain my warriors for the number of days you ask." As he spoke, he clasped his hand around the old man's right wrist in order to take from him all fear. Then Priam went to his couch, and Achilles lay down in the innermost room of his house. All were asleep except Hermes, and he pondered in his mind how he could lead the king of Troy back from the ships unseen. At last he went to Priam where he lay asleep, stood at the head of his couch, and he said, "O man, is not your sleep among hostile men a little too untroubled? They have spared you, it is true. They took your rich ransom and consented to give you the body of your son. But if Agamemnon and the other Argives knew of it, your sons at home would have to ransom you, the living, with 3 times as much. The old man sat up in alarm and woke the herald. Hermes himself yoked the horses and mules and mounted the chariot with the king. Idaeus drove the wagon on which the body lay. Unnoticed, they rode through their enemies, and soon the camp of the Achaeans lay behind them. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales. Many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.